Society soldiers. So I read a lot of YA, you know, exhibit A, B, C, D, and E, but every once in a while I've been known to be a connoisseur of a good, regular book, you know, one that doesn't have a character that's 17 and has to save the world, and I thought I would share my favorites today. So I put on a adult-looking sweater and a nice conservative 90s brown lip, and let's go over my top favorite non-YA authors. The first on this list is, hilariously enough, a book that I had to do a book report on. I accidentally came across this book and it's been one of my favorites ever since, and that is The Virgin Cure by Amy McKay. This is a historical fiction set in 1870s New York about a girl named Moth who is the daughter of a Christie Street slum mystic. As Moth turns 12, her mother sells her as a maid to this high lady in a household that ends up being really bad for Moth, so she ends up running away and falling into a brothel where she becomes a prostitute in training. At the same time, she's also become an apprentice for this female doctor who at the time was a very rare thing. Because Moth is so young, it does have a bit of a childlike quality to it, but also it's very gritty due to the fact that she grew up very poor and what she's had to do to make ends meet. She also has a bit of a paranormal twist in here because Moth can kind of see ghosts and figure out people's desires. And back then, a virgin cure was someone sleeping with a virgin to cure any kind of sexually transmitted disease. But back then that was a thing, and Moth does fall prey to this whole idea of having a virgin cure in a corrupt New York. Next up is a super cool fantasy novel, and that is The Invisible Library by Genevieve Cogman. And this series has to do with a library that exists outside of space and time, and the librarians that work for it go to alternate dimensions to find special editions and versions of books. Dream job right here. There are certain worlds that are more high chaos or high magic, so we get werewolves and vampires and demons and dragons and fairies. And the main character, Irene, is a librarian who eventually gets caught up with Kai, who is a prince of dragons, and their adventures trying to get different versions of these books while an enemy of the library is coming and taking over these high chaos worlds. This is a series, there's 3 out so far. I loved every single one of them. The writing is dry humor, the worlds are so well developed, there's some really interesting side characters, especially the humans that help out with this extra world that they know nothing about. I love the dragon element to it that I didn't think I was going to, because dragons are kind of hard to write, but Genevieve Cogman is pulling it off. Now I'm sure when some of you saw this title you were like, okay, that book has to be in there somewhere, and you're right, because I'm also going to mention The Black Dagger Brotherhood by J.R. Ward. This is my guilty pleasure of a vampire romance novel series, and I am not ashamed to say it. I love this series so much because it's like 80% murdering and drugs and blood and gore, and then like 20% romance, so it's a good ratio between the two. I've stayed reading these for so long because it's just such a creative world that she's made. It's not just, oh, there's some vampires seducing humans and then like werewolves are the enemy. There's this whole other vampire religion and heaven dimension, and the creatures that they fight are these things called lessers that are humans that have cut out their hearts and they pale out like albinos, and they're trying to take over the vampire race. It's super hilarious. There's swearing, lots of drugs, and like a good amount of like the steamy stuff. But it's obviously a romance novel series, but you don't read this for the romance. I swear to God, you read it for everything else, and the romance is like, oh, that's kind of a nice addition. My 4th book is also another book that I'm sure some of you knew was going to be on this list, because Deeper by Robin York is one of my favorite books ever. Deeper is a new adult fiction following a girl named Caroline whose ex-boyfriend shared their sex photos online, and her life kind of spiraling out of control from this point. The other main character, West, is a kid from the same college campus as Caroline who's seen these pictures. They have a little bit of a history and them kind of figuring out their own lives while being drawn together. The characters are incredibly developed to the point where they are people. There are not characters. It's so good. I don't know how she does it. I think the themes of family and friendship and connection are really well fleshed out in these books. Also, it is dual point of view, and you can clearly tell what is West's chapters and what are Caroline's chapters. On a similar vein, another new adult book that I absolutely adore is Camgirl by Leah Rader. If you don't know what a camgirl is, Google it. I didn't necessarily like the book for the camgirl aspect, although that was interesting to get into because I didn't really know very much about it, and this really goes into the world of camming. But the thing that really surprised me is that there is so much in here about gender and identity. I don't want to say too much because I can't really spoil the twist ending, but just the ideas of gender and identity are very heavy roles in this that were written absolutely beautifully. And lastly, probably my favorite on this list is just, oh my god, so good. I love this author oh so very much. And that is J. Wells for her Redheaded Stepchild Sabina Cain vampire series. These books follow Sabina Cain, who is a half vampire and a half mage, and she's the granddaughter of like the high vampire overlord, and her mage family decides that they want to get in touch, and then there's this demon that's sent to kill her that ends up becoming her friend, and there's this other hot mage that's supposed to have brought her back to her family, and then fairies get involved, and then there's like, we go to hell for a whole book, and then there's like demon roller derby. It's absolutely hilarious. It's so well written. There's a ton of fun characters. This is a really good novel to show how authors can turn tropes on their heads if they write them a different way, because we do have the all-powerful overlord, we have the chosen one, we have the half vampire, half mage, we have the traditional you're so good at magic, we have the dead parents, we have the long-lost twin, but it's written in such a way that you don't even notice that those are tropes until you're done and you're like, wait a minute. Plus, in this world, anybody that has red hair is a vampire, and anybody that is human with red hair apparently has a vampire somewhere in their family tree. Are we surprised? Not really. So there you have it. Those are my top non-YA reads that I really enjoy. I hope some of you guys can give these a shot as well. I want to do this video to show you some books that YA readers can transition to into regular fiction, and then I also want to do a video in the next little while about books that adult readers can really enjoy that are YA titles. I really wanted to wear my glasses today, but there's just not enough light to balance it out, so it's just like too much reflection. But come on, like, I'd be so cute if I wore these. Damn it. Hope you guys are having a nice day wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!